What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another rendition of the Pound for Pound, not live, but me and my main man, Toby D, are back, doing kind of like an old school type situation. We don't have a game to preview this week, so we figured we would take the time and take the opportunity to kind of go over some of the notes that we've been taking through the first, 5 games leading up to this bye week. Something that you had got me into, Toby, which was something I've mentioned before on the show. I've tweeted about. It is charting football games, and what that means for those that don't know is me and Toby will watch the games and we'll chart down and distance, field position, the personnel grouping, and then a short description of the play, trying to see if we can bring out like a pattern or what the analysis or what the numbers say. And early on in the offseason, people kept trying to ask us what we thought this team was going to be, and our standard answer ended up being, give us until 4 or 5 games and we'll have some better answers. Well, we're at that mark, and we do have some answers now. So, first and foremost, I want to start this off by going, what did you get me into charting these games, Toby?
Hey, man, listen. I figured, they do it in baseball.
Yep.
We might well learn how to do it in football, and I'm glad I did, man, because it really allows you to get a more deeper insight on what's going on, what teams' formulas are, and what they're trying to do as far as a game plan throughout the year. To either have success or a failed operation, so to speak.
Right. And I'll go ahead and call it. That first game, that first Philly game was real hard to chart because it was it was just a disaster all the way around.
Yeah.
On that particular game, because of how bad it was, I just did a simple chart marking down whether it was a run or pass. Depending on what kind of formation. For those of you that don't know, you've heard these terms, I'm sure, but we'll go ahead and explain them a little bit better. Like an 11 personnel or 12 personnel, meaning one running back and one tight end. So 1 and 1 makes 11. So the nomenclature there is running backs and tight ends. Running backs always come first in the formation description, so it's always running backs and then tight ends. So if you hear 22 personnel, that's two running backs and 2 tight ends. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's what the numbers mean when we talk about formation, and that's something that we're going to talk about quite a bit today, is the usage of the formations. But before we really jump into that, I think it was Evan Birchfield, I can't remember the gentleman's name, on Twitter. He contributes to the Falcoholic and things of that nature. So he put out a stat line that I found interesting, which was in 2020, Matt Ryan, through 5 games, attempted 204 passes, completed 129 of them for 1,472 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So that was Matt Ryan's stat line through first 5 games of 2020. First 5 games of 2021, he attempted 204 passes, so the exact same number of passes that he had attempted in 2020. Even with as bad of a start as the Philly game was, he's completed 141 of them versus 129. So he's completed more passes, but here's the difference, though. This is what we always talk about with how schemes work differently depending on coaching. He has only completed 1,332 yards. So that's 140 yards less than last year through this time. And now that accounts for, obviously, a lot of the dump-offs that we've seen, and we'll get into as this particular show goes on. But now, here's the important part. It's 10 touchdowns to 7 touchdowns. So he's got 3 more touchdowns and the same amount of interceptions. So in a lot of aspects, you could say he's actually been more efficient
Right.
with Arthur Smith than he was with Dirk Cutter. And so that is an encouraging sign, especially, like I said, it's after that game one, like the sky was falling.
Right.
We were like, oh God, did we make a mistake? Did we make the mistake of not, bringing in the future QB? Well, it quickly showed that, no, we didn't make that mistake.
Right.
Matt Ryan can still sling it and can still be effective. He just, you got growing pains to grow through.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to transition into a next set of stats, but if you had a point to make off of what I just said, I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say the uptick there is 0-5 versus 2-3. Matt Ryan, you can tell is playing better, and if you really want to be technical about it, we should have been 3-2 the way he's played the last 3 games.
Right.
But we're at least winning with his increased play that he's bringing to the game right now instead of being on the losing side. So that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. That is very much a good thing. 2 wins over, like you said, being 0-5. That's a huge difference there. And Michael Rosenthien of ESPN, the beat writer of the Falcons for ESPN now, put together an interesting article about something that me and you have been noting is red zone production.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that Arthur Smith came into town with. Like, that was one of his biggest, pluses, I guess you could say, one of the biggest accoutrements coming from Tennessee was his red zone production. And that was something that us as, amateur analysts, whatever you want to call us, was really hoping was going to translate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you didn't want to see is, okay, was he good in the red zone solely because of Derrick Henry? Because that was always kind of in the back of your mind,
Right.
Was that the reason why he was good? Because everybody was scared of or trying to figure out how to stop Henry. Well, come to find out, that's not the case. Like, he is actually very efficient in the red zone as a play caller, which is great to see. Because when I had that interview with Sean McAvoy, the QB coach, like, his biggest point to why somebody would be bad in the red zone, he hung it on the hat of play calling.
Mm-hmm.
And said, play calling that's where play calling shines, when everything is more condensed, tighter windows, things like that. That's where, getting your guys spacing and open is extremely important. And through from week 2 on, because you, like I said, you're so, JR, well, you're discounting the Philly game. No, I'm really not. We only made 2 trips to the red zone in the Philly game, and we kicked 2 field goals. So as far as scoring points in the red zone, you still did that.
Right.
But you just didn't make it to the red zone in the Philly game. So from week 2 on, they are 78.6% touchdown completion percentage in their 14 red zone drives. So in their 14 drives, they're scoring at almost an 80% clip.
Yep.
As far as points goes, they are 16 for 16 in the red zone. Like, when is the last time we can honestly say that about the Falcons? That as far as the red zone is concerned, we've been perfect as far as scoring points goes.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
And that's another difference in the reason why we're 2-3. Should have been 3-2, but the reason why we're 2-3 is because when we're getting down there, we're scoring, coming away with 6 in the extra point instead of scoring just 3 points. And you playing against the good teams in this league, which we're probably not going to see a lot of in the regular season. But when you're playing against the good teams, the great teams like right now, Tampa Bay, Bucks, you have to be able to score 6 and come away with them extra points. You can't do field goals. And so that's a great sign for Arthur Smith bringing that to the table with the Atlanta Falcons.
That has been a very encouraging aspect. Now, I want to sit here and see if I can get this pulled up real quick. I want to pull up, because the other thing that Arthur Smith came with was the, run game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the run game hasn't necessarily been stellar, per se, through these first 5 weeks. But I wanted to actually get the raw numbers pulled up here. Let's see here. All right, total offense. All right, stop it. I got everything bouncing around on my screen here. So far, we've had your best game was your Philly game. The Philly game, you rushed for 124 yards.
Yeah.
Since then, sorry, my glasses are bothering me. Since then, you rushed for 55, 69 the next 2 weeks. Now, that was against Tampa and against the Giants.
Giants, yeah.
Like, you didn't have a good run game against the Giants, but Tampa's hard to run on right now for anybody. You saw that last night with the Eagles. So
it's the big Vita Vea, boy.
Right. Vita Vea is right. But the last 2 games against the Jets and Washington, you went for 99 and 108.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see, I don't know if it's just like, the backs themselves starting to get more comfortable. I actually take it as a sign that the offensive line is getting, more comfortable in what they're being asked to do. So it's good to see an uptick. I hope that continues. You got Miami next, which you should be able to get some run game going, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about that, JR, is what you've done now. You ran the ball enough to make teams respect that you can run the ball. And therefore, when we get to talking about this, the play action can continue to thrive and the RPO can continue to thrive, which I'm very impressed right now what I've seen out of Matt Ryan with the RPO game. This is one of the things I mentioned on one of the videos I did that I was curious to see because Matt Ryan didn't do a lot of that with Dirk Cutter.
Right.
And to see he's done the last 3 games, you've seen that increase exponentially with Matt Ryan running these RPOs and some explosive plays that have come out of that RPO game, man. The one to Kyle Pitts in that Jets game for that 39 yards, that was RPO. And Matt Ryan sold it well and was able to get those safeties drawn up where Kyle Pitts was able to get behind them and be able to throw that ball and complete that pass. And that was excellent. Yeah,
and speaking of explosive plays, that was a with the loss of some of the weapons that we lost over the offseason, and as the season has progressed, that was something that I for sure was concerned about because I believe in the Philly game you saw 1 deep pass.
Yep.
And then the next 2 games you didn't really see any. And I was like, man, y'all can't keep doing that because you've got to at least try to keep the defense honest. You can't allow them to, suck up on you. But when I got to really looking at it, they've had, over the 5 games, they've had 23 explosive plays. And, for the folks who are not sure what an explosive play is, it is anything that's 20 yards or more. And so they've been able to produce explosive plays, whether it's, Cordell Patterson leaking out. And that's 23, explosive plays. That's runs and passes. So that's not just, one or the other. I'm trying to see if I could, let's see here. I thought I had written down, trying to see. Well, might be able to find it. Anyway. Yeah, I guess not. All right. Oh, what I was trying to see is even in the Jets game, you didn't have but about maybe 2 or 3 explosive plays, but you had a lot of chunk plays. Right. A lot of plays that were right on the cusp. Right. A lot of plays that gained 18 yards or 17 yards or 15, right there on the cusp of being a explosive play. And so you were able to really keep those chains moving in that aspect. Right. And one of the things that I have been impressed with, and I'm not sure, well, I say I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure you've noticed it, is how many times you went from 1st and 10 to like 2nd and 8 to getting another first down.
Right.
Like, especially in that Jets game, you weren't in 3rd down a lot.
Yeah.
And that's something I've noticed too, is that Arthur Smith, like these last few games, has really been able to, get a lot of, 1st and 10, 2nd and 13, and then 1st and 10. So you've been able to pick up a lot of those first downs without or keeping yourself out of the down and distance. Keeping yourself ahead of the chains, I guess is what they say.
See, the other good news about that is when they were in 3rd down, they completed them. Mm-hmm. And these last 2 games, they completed a hefty amount, over 50% of their 3rd downs when they were caught in it, and that is a plus. When your 3rd downs are starting to go up,
so that's a huge plus. When you can get like the things that you, as an offense, that you want is, you want to have good red zone production and you want to have good 3rd down production.
Yeah.
And through these last, even against Tampa, like, these last 4 games, you've really had that. Yeah. And that's been a boon because I don't know if I'm not going to fully transition to it, but the defense as of yet hasn't started to live up to its end yet.
Man.
Because they're giving up the passing yards of the defense has been, total yards, 434, 341, 346. You gave up 412 to Tyler Heineke and the Washington Redskins, or not Redskins anymore, Washington football team. And then, you finally had your best yardage game where you held Zach Wilson to 230 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
Under 200. That was the first time you held anybody to under 200 yards of passing. So that's something I hope continues to improve.
Yeah.
As we go on, I know that AJ Terrell has been one of the better corners.
Yep.
In the league. I'm trying to see if I could pull that stat up, but let's see here. AJ. Normally I like to have all this stuff like ready to go, but I did not tonight.
I think he's only allowed 1 touchdown on him.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
A total of 42 yards in the first 5 games. And I mean, that's spectacular. That's exactly what we was hoping that AJ Terrell would bring to the table. Now he still got to work a little bit. Of course, everybody do on the stupid penalties.
Yeah.
Trust your speed, Doc, and your technique, because you have both of them. And I think sometimes he gets a little out of his technique when he's trying to defend certain plays, like the one specifically with the Jets, which I thought really was ticky-tacky.
That was a very ticky-tack. Like, all he had to do in that aspect is just get his head around.
Yeah.
If he'd have got his head around, you wouldn't have bothered him. But here's what I saw. It was like in 235 snaps, AJ Terrell has allowed 20 targets, 8 catches, 59 yards, no touchdowns, and a 46.9 rating when targeted.
Wow, so no touchdown.
Right.
Woo.
Yeah, so he's been he has been what you wanted when you drafted him first over, in your first round last year.
Yeah.
So, which is really good to see. But we'll get back to the defense here in just a minute. But I was just, with the, with how good the offense has been playing, you kind of had to bring that up just a little bit about the defense needs to start bringing together, it needs to start holding up its end of the bargain.
Right.
But I think like what you're starting to see, with whether it be because of injuries or whatever, Richie Grant's getting some playing time, Darren Hall's getting some playing time, Ogundeji's getting more playing time. So that's good. Like hopefully, because you knew the guys that you had signed weren't necessarily cream of the crop.
Right.
Your Eric Harris's and your Deron Harmons and stuff like that. You brought those guys in more or less to help along the rookies,
Yeah.
So hopefully, that'll continue to go through the bye week. So we've talked a lot about stats. We've talked a lot about like some of the formation stuff, but I want to get into like the schematics in the sense of what this offense has been doing. Because let's be honest, that's what you did when you brought in an offensive-minded head coach.
Right.
You put that spotlight on the offense. Just like the past few years, it should have been on the defense, even though it wasn't. So, are you surprised at all? I mean, we probably shouldn't be, but are you surprised at all at the use of 12 personnel?
No, not at all. It's what we thought would happen, and the more you can dig into it, you see that.
Right. They ran 12 personnel, what I have calculated 119 times. They've been in that formation. Now, the part that kind of surprised me is the amount of usage of Lee Smith.
Yeah,
because
that is a surprise.
Right. Because I thought you would see Lee Smith more on the 13 personnel package or like obvious rundowns. But the fact that he's getting involved in the passing game really reminds me a lot of, I think I said it on Wednesday's show, Levine Toilolo, in the sense of like he's the forgotten man out there, which is making for some easy targets for Matt Ryan. And I'm glad to see it because that does nothing but continue to put your defenses in compromising situations.
Right.
So, the other high number was 11 personnel, which they ran 92 times, and probably would have outshined 12 personnel had Ridley been active.
Yeah.
On the Jets game. That obviously changed what they were going, to do there. But when Gage went down, you started to see a drop. And, when Gage went out after week 2, you started seeing that 12 personnel come up more. And which I think is where Arthur Smith wants to live, myself. Is I think he wants to be like a base 12 personnel. I think he would eventually like to see pass catching tight ends more than Lee Smith out there. I don't think when he brought in Lee Smith, he envisioned he was going to have to use him as much as he has been.
And I'm gonna tell you what though, that's actually a great thing moving forward because the table has definitely been set. This offense has set the table in these 5 games to where if they get certain looks based on what they've been doing, they're gonna have answers to how to deal with that. We heard Matt Ryan mention in his post presser. Remember when you was talking about you was a little nervous about a lot of short to intermediate routes that they were throwing and not a lot of deep passes. Well, Matt Ryan mentioned that the defense of the Jets started sitting on those, and that's why they was able to go deep the way they were. So when you're able to take advantage based on what you've been doing, the defense trying to defend those certain things, and you're able to take advantage and complete them, now that makes you a dangerous team moving forward going into week 7 and on in this regular season. It's going to be interesting to see how Arthur Smith and Matt Ryan operate now that they've set the table for what they've done in the first 5 weeks in that offense.
Definitely, and with the growing confidence in his own play, the growing confidence in like between Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts, like starting to grow, because Calvin Ridley may be your number one. As far as your reception, like target wise. Yeah. But Kyle Pitts is starting to heat up in as far as the number of targets he's receiving. 8 targets in the first game, and he dropped 4 of those. So I think you saw that's why one of the reasons why you saw it kind of slack off a little bit. But then you went from 6 to 3 to 9 to 10. So then in that 10 target game, obviously 119 yards, a touchdown, and if I'm not mistaken, he's caught like the most passes without drops
Yeah.
So he's showing you that
for the PFL, yeah.
Yeah. So he's showing you that sure-handedness that he had in college. He's showing that it's translating. He's starting to gain the rapport and the trust of the coaching staff and of Matt Ryan, which has, like, whether it was a you got no choice but to use him in London type situation or whatever, I feel like it ends up working out for the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I've been harping on the last couple of shows, but it's really just like a stark standout to me. Like, it seems like all this has really started clicking, in the fourth quarter of the Giants game.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that it's continuing. Like, it wasn't just a fluke,
Yeah.
Even though you didn't come out with a win in Washington, it wasn't for the lack of your offense.
Mm-hmm.
So now we just need the defense to start to come alive, which they got their first pick, Jalen Hawkins.
Jalen Hawkins, yeah.
So, maybe that's something that can spark up. I wanted to see if I could tell. Hold on, let me see here. If it'll show me how many, let's see, rushing, receiving. Here we go, defense. As of right now, we have a team total of 9 sacks through the first 5 games. And I feel like that's more than what we had last year. Like, I should have pulled those numbers, but I feel like we are getting more pressures than we did last year. But like when you're sending blitzes like Pease does, you're going to live and die with, like, the yards that you're going to give up when you don't get home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that defense is a work in progress still. And they've been inconsistent, to say the least, but they've had 2 games where they look good. Now, can they take that Giants game and this Jets game and put it together moving forward? That'll be the question.
Exactly. And I know it's an early bye week for us, but I really feel like it came at a good time.
It did.
It came at a time where, maybe the coaches, get a chance to readjust what they're looking at. You got a good sample size now on both offense and defense, and you've had a chance to see some of your, young talent on the defensive side of the ball, so you can really start to make. You're past that point where now you have like 12 games left, which is a college season, which is something that Arthur Smith mentioned. So you may now be more considering putting your rookies in. So trying not to, like, overtax them, which seems to be like a concern for Smith. Like, you saw that in the preseason. I wonder if he'll change his tactics next year. I guess it depends on how many offensive linemen he brings back. But, I mean, you still got healthy offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, man. I mean, wow. I mean, talking about that healthy offensive lineman, the way that it's setting up right now, you got some pretty decent backups. I mean, shout out to Dwayne Ledford, man, and what he's done to help that offensive line improve from week 1 to week 5. It's a world of a difference. You can tell with the trust of Arthur Smith in that offensive line and Matt Ryan, because he's gotten to see Matt Ryan in person now and what he feels like Matt Ryan can handle. Matt Ryan say, I can handle it. He's giving it to him. He mentioned that in the post press in the Jets game. And just to see this offensive line and Jalen Mayfield, now you still got to take your lumps with his false start penalties. But I'll take 2 in the game.
At least we're not seeing the offensive line blocking nobody.
Yeah.
Like we were seeing in the first couple games, where it looked like him and Hennessy were, like, didn't know what they were doing. Like, for as much as we want to rag on Hennessy as well, you also got to realize this is his first real year starting.
Yeah.
So you're really dealing with a rookie at center and a rookie at left guard.
Yeah.
And, that's going to have an impact on Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom. Now, Lindstrom is quietly putting together an extremely solid starting it,
Yes.
to his third year. Now McGarry, he needs to pick his play up. He still seems like he's struggling, but hopefully he'll pick it up as we go. But they didn't give up any sacks in London to a team that just recorded 7 sacks the previous.
Mm-hmm.
And had they gotten 1 sack, they would have been in the top 5 in the NFL. After that game. So that wasn't a fluke in that sense. They didn't give up any sacks. So hopefully that's something that can continue to go forward.
Yeah, and I tell you, something that I've noticed, and we did it successfully in 2016. The Falcons have been very efficient in that 2 minute before the halftime. They've scored in the last 4 games. They've scored points going into the half. In those last 4 games, and that's something beautiful because they consider that like stealing a possession.
Right.
When you're able to score before the halftime, and hopefully that continues. So they definitely, if nothing else, they have that part down packed. They are very poised in that 2-minute drill leading into the halftime.
You're really kind of getting shades of early years of Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
In that efficiency, that was something that he was well known for as far as performing well in the 2-minute drills. Closing out, games or, game-winning drives or whatever. And it's things that we hadn't seen in the past few years. And you're really starting to wonder if that part of his game was gone. And you're really starting to see it like the resurgence of it. And I'm glad, as a professed biased Matt Ryan supporter that I am, I'm glad to see him stepping that up,
Yeah.
Was there any other points that you were wanting to hit on and make? Is there anything that you think that you want to see him continue to employ coming out of the bye week? What are you looking for coming out of this bye? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, I'm excited. The table is set. They've been building up Matt Ryan, and Off Smith always talks about building these players up. And
Right.
You've seen each week they've added more, and Matt Ryan has gotten comfortable with adding the RPO game, the stuff he's practiced. He's added the RPO game and looked good in that play action. I think the play action will continue to thrive, and they built Kyle Pitts up too, to this 5th game, and which is why you saw him just blow it out the frame with 119 yards and 1 touchdown. But what I'm excited about, JR, your tight ends had 189 yards in that game and 2 touchdowns, Doc. And that's you talked about this with comparing Jonnu Smith and Fisker to Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts, and said that Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst were better.
Yes.
And they showed that in this game.
Yeah,
if that continues, it can be dangerous.
And that's what I hope to see, because that was the part that had me really scratching my head these first few games. I understood, I didn't expect Kyle Pitts to come out hair on fire, burning the house down week 1. But I would be lying to you if I didn't expect more production out of Hayden Hurst by this point. I figured early on they would lean on Hayden Hurst, and then as the season went on, it would transition to, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
But the lack of production from Hayden Hurst up to this game was very disappointing to me.
Yeah.
And it left me shaking my head. Come on, man. You're a former first-round tight end too. You're in a contract year. You should be clawing and scratching, trying to, do everything you can. And so, his lack of production up to this point had been, I wouldn't lie to anybody, that's been a disappointment to me. But
I feel you.
But you start to see him come on again in that 5th game, whether it's because they had no choice or whatever you want to call it. You're starting to see him come on, and hopefully that continues, especially with what appears to be how thin our wide receiver room really is.
Yeah.
Outside of Ridley, you really ain't got nothing special at tight end or at wide receiver. So, And there's a slow debate going on whether we actually have something special with Ridley or not. Like the rest of the season will tell for sure. But as it stands right now, past Ridley, you don't have much in that wide receiver room. So I need Hayden Hurst to step up. And I need, Kyle Pitts to continue going on. I fully expect, and we ain't really gotten into the versatility of Cordell Patterson, but we've sung his praises so much that, didn't necessarily need. But I expect the 12 personnel and 22 personnel to continue to be a mainstay.
Yeah. What I do want to see though, not to cut y'all, what I do want to see kind of fall back a little bit is the turnovers, man. Your defense gets a turnover and you give it right back to the other offense. You can't do that because that's starting to become a little trend now, and then you got to stop that. I'll take that back. I won't say it's starting to become a trend, but it can if you don't figure out how to stop that right away.
Yeah, because
teams are looking at that.
Both Hurst and Davis both have 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
And like the 2 that they fumbled against the Jets, like you could have really been blowing them out.
Yep.
Had you not turned those 2 over, like had you come away with just the field goals, that's a whole different looking score.
Right.
So, well, man, I think that's all I got as far as like the state of the Falcons, so to speak. I really hope that they can get this defense rolling, and I really hope that they have like unlocked the tight end cupboard, so to speak.
Yeah.
Taking the train wheels off and just let it ride at this point. You really ain't got nothing else to lose.
Yeah.
Anything else you need to add or want to add?
Man, that's it. The table is set. Now let's see what you do with it.
Yeah, let's see if we can go like 500 for the first time in I don't
know.
Man. That would be nice. But as always, folks, we will be back live on Wednesday. We may have us a guest. This is obviously taking place of our live show tonight or for Friday night. But yeah, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program on Wednesday. As always, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128. It's GRIMM1128. Toby
D 1991.
And as always, Falcons fans, let's win.
Let's win, baby.